Do you want to be able to give your protagonist a great character misbelief and the origin of that? Well, this video is all about how to do that, guys. What's up? Dave Jacobson here, best-selling author and book publisher. And in the last video, we talked about a protagonist misbelief, what it was, why it's important, and also how you can start writing one. In this video, we're going to talk about giving an origin or a backstory to your character's misbelief. We're going to talk about what that is, why that's important, and how it segues into the next step in this step-by-step process. So if you haven't watched this video series before, guys, my name's Dave Jacobson, best-selling author, book publisher. I've created a 30-step process for drafting a fictional novel from start to finish. And this series is giving you that step-by-step process. So if you're somebody who has writer's block or you don't have a good process yet worked out for consistently drafting novels start to finish, this series is for you. So if that sounds good, guys, without further ado, I'm going to shrink my melon-sized head here and we're going to get right into the heart of this video. As you can see, I pulled up my step-by-step story development process, which I've created over the last 20 years of writing. And I want to share this with you guys now so you can succeed as authors. And where we are right now is I've gone through step 1 through 10 in the previous videos. And now we're going to talk about step 11, okay? So step 1 was we just chose a working title. Step 2, we talked about the protagonist and the antagonist and what that was, how to create a good one. Then we talked about, giving them a name. We gave our character, our protagonist, some qualities or traits that made them likable and sympathetic and easy to sympathize with. And by the way, guys, if you haven't watched these videos, I highly encourage you to go back and watch them in order because there's a method to the madness and there's a reason the steps are in the order that they are in, okay? Then we stated the conflict, but we did all the stuff before. Watch those videos. I'm not gonna sort of reinvent the nail. And then the last video, we talked about this. We talked about the misbelief of our protagonist, right? What is a misbelief? Why is it important? How is it related to character arc, which we defined in the previous step, and how can we give our characters a misbelief, right? We talked about basically misbelief is something that your character is incorrect about themselves or about the world that prevents them from overcoming the central conflict of the story, okay? So for example, in Harry Potter, we said that the protagonist's central misbelief was, I am unwanted, powerless and ordinary, right? Survival is something that happens to me, not something I can give meaning to. No one's coming for me. Adults decide my life. I endure it. Okay, strange things that happen to me because I'm a wizard only get me punished, etc., right? Those are the misbeliefs of Harry Potter. Now we're going to get into step 11. This is where you have to give an origin of your misbelief, right? Now, this will become ultimately part of the character's backstory, okay? But it's going to help us really understand sort of the psychological depth and the reason for why a character has a flaw, okay? Why is this important? Well, let's say that Harry has this misbelief that he's unimportant and he's normal and things like that. Well, if he just starts acting out of that misbelief and your readers continue to see this flaw coming out, but they don't understand where it comes from, they're going to be confused, right? So you have to kind of have a credible backstory for why your protagonist has this misbelief. Okay, so that's what this story is all about, giving that sort of backstory. So let's talk about, again, Harry Potter as our example. In that story, the protagonist's misbelief originates from his upbringing, right? He lives with, well, let's just talk about it. As a baby, he survives a catastrophic attack that kills his parents, but instead of being raised with love and truth, he's left with his relatives, the Dursleys, who resent him. They conceal his magical identity and abilities, right? They lie to him about his parents' death, punish him for unexplained events, and deny him comfort and treat him as an inconvenience, right? So this is kind of, we're getting into the heart of the psychology behind why, in this case, in our example, Harry Potter has this misbelief, right? The misbelief is reinforced by several repeated childhood experiences. He's given inferior living conditions while another child is spoiled. He's blamed for strange things he cannot control. He's forbidden to ask questions about his parents, right? All these things explain why Harry Potter, in this particular example, has the misbelief that he was given, right? Now, the origin can be summarized as this, and this is what you're trying to get at this step. So to complete the step, you need a paragraph similar to the one that I'm going to provide right here, right? The protagonist believes he is unwanted and powerless because the people who raised him constructed his entire childhood around that idea. They hid his identity, erased his history, and treated his difference as something shameful. Okay, guys, so the reason we're going to see the next part in step 12, why this is very important that you need to go through this step first before we get to the next part, which is theme. Okay, so if that sounds good, guys, if you got value out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.